We're ready.
Okay, great. So this is the Parks and Recreation meeting for February 3rd, 2022 for Newtown Township. Public comment can be made at this meeting one of four ways. Comment can be dropped off in the blue drop box at the mail entrance to the building. That was checked before the meeting, and I don't believe there was any public comment in there. Second, you can raise your hand while in the Zoom meeting and be recognized, and Mr. Bradley will facilitate that if any public comment comes in that way. You can use the phone-in option for the Zoom meeting. Again, Mr. Bradley will facilitate that. And you could also, the fourth way would have been sending an email to public comment at newtowntownship.org. That email address was checked before the meeting and there was no public comment in there. Mr. Pollock, the meeting is yours.
Call to order. George, can you do roll call for us?
Certainly. Wade Pollock.
Here.
Peter Lake.
Here.
Jonathan Gifford.
Here.
Bill Postick. Here. And Caitlin Foy.
Here.
Great.
And we'll have a moment of silence. And the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag
Flag.
of the United States, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Consider approving the minutes from January 6th meeting.
Move to approve.
Anyone second?
I second.
So it's moved. Reports from the chairman. Yeah, I'm sorry. Can we take a vote on the minutes? All those in favor say aye.
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 Hearing no others, it's approved. Reports from the chairman. So in researching a lot of the Greer Park work that we did, I stumbled upon a lot of pictures of community activity, planting trees, cleaning up the streams, all sorts of stuff. And Jonathan Gifford was in a lot of those pictures. And over the past couple of years, I've asked him to step up and do some stuff for me as well and represent the committee. So I just wanted to recognize Jonathan for all of the community activity that he's done over the past 6 years. It's greatly appreciated by all of us. Thank you, Jonathan. And for new business, discussion and possible approval of action related to shade umbrella at Brookside Park. So George, if you can.
Sure. So thank you. So as Park and Rec had requested that the township budget for shade at the Brookside Park, and that was done. So that we have money in the budget this year in the capital budget to facilitate that. So we have a vendor that we've talked to, one of the ones that we use for a lot of the playground equipment. I asked Steve if he could pull up this product line. And if you scroll down, there are just, shade after shade after shade of possibilities, in addition to the funbrella concept that had been presented before. So what I am asking, so that we can get a formal proposal in front of this committee, if I could have two members of the committee, whoever you want, meet me and the vendor out at Brookside Park, so that I can narrow down exactly where it is that the committee would like shaded, because the various shades facilitate shade in different ways. And I want to make sure, because whatever poles we put in become permanent. The shade itself comes down every season. None of the shades are able to withstand snow and ice and those kind of things. So the shade comes down and gets cleaned every year, but the poles are going to be permanently in place. So I want to make sure we are shading exactly the area that Park and Rec wants to shade. I know we've talked conceptually about it before, but it's time if we could have any of the two members meet myself and the vendor out there. We will say exactly, okay, this is the area we would like to provide some shade, and then we can get the appropriate proposal in front of you.
Okay.
When are you going to do that?
As soon as I know who the two are, then I will communicate directly with them and with the vendor, and we'll set up a time as fast as we can.
Okay. I'm leaving on the 20th, but I can do it between now and then.
I'm
Mike,
around, I'm around too.
Next week should be fine. I think, Caitlin, it would be good to have you there as a mom.
Great. Sounds good.
So,
That works.
Caitlin, and I'll come too.
And
No,
Bill?
no, Bill
There's
and
no problem
Caitlin
with
can
having
go.
3, is there?
No, I don't think we want 3 because of
Yeah.
the quorum.
Just 2.
Just two.
So you and
right.
Caitlin go. This was your idea, so I think
Okay.
you should definitely be there.
All
And
right.
Caitlin is a good idea for a mom.
Next week would be fine.
Thank you. So I'll communicate with the two of you and the vendor. And again, whatever we decide and the proposal is going to be brought back to the whole board for your approval to make
Okay.
sure that it is what the board wants.
Okay.
Right. Now, does that mean we have a sail and a umbrella? Or do we have one or the other?
So
Because
right now we have money and we are going to expend as much as we can for shade with the money that we have. And it could be one and the other. It may be one large of one or the other. I think once we get out there and we decide exactly where we want that shade to fall,
Mhm.
then we'll look at, as you can see, the many options that are out there
Right.
to get the right piece in there. Because
Okay.
again, we also don't want to detract from the tot lot itself. We want to make sure it's complementary. And when the sales are down in the winter time, that people would still want to go there. It doesn't look like there's something wrong with it.
Okay. And you don't anticipate any problem putting in the poles?
We'll be able to put the poles in.
Okay.
I don't think they're not going to be easy, but I don't see a problem putting them in.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
One thing I was thinking is if we have the poles could possibly be a hazard for somebody to run into. So I was thinking that maybe we want to choose one of the options that have fewer poles than more poles. Just a
Jonathan,
suggestion.
I was thinking the same thing, that you don't want to have poles right around where the kids are running around the playground equipment. So I'm on the same page, thinking about maybe a 1 or 2 pole setup.
That's great. And one of the interesting things was when we started researching it, I mean, there are some of these shades that are designed to go over playground equipment and others are designed to go over where parents would sit. And again, I know all of these things were talked about. So now's the ideal time to go out and really sit there and look and say, this is where we would like the shade to land. And then we can design the umbrella, the shade, the sail to be out of the way as much as possible. That's going to get that.
But still provide the shade where it's needed.
Exactly. Good. Thank you.
I guess if anyone has any concerns or comments, send them to Bill and Caitlin. Discussion and possible approval of related action to the teen-specific event at Drexel Lodge Park. So I was able to reach out to Jake Galimpi, and he would be interested. He has some concerns of doing it during the summer because he doesn't have access to the kids then. He has much better access during the school year, of course. So that's what he's looking at. And he's just taking a look at things. I threw some things out just to give him some ideas what we've discussed over the past few months. And he's going to get back to me. So Peter, did you get a chance to talk to the guidance counselor at all?
No, I did not. I dropped the ball on that one. I'm sorry. I lost her contact information. and I'm not making an excuse there. I kind of forgot, and I can do that this month.
All right. I'm not sure what kind of event we could have. I'm a music person, so of course I always go to music, but that's not that might not be the answer. If anyone has any ideas on what we could do.
Well, what I was thinking was some sort of opportunity for the kids to dance. Have a DJ do a set, and then maybe the dance band from the high school do a set, DJ again, and then high school, so that it's a couple hours worth of danceable music. And it can be done in the pavilion, the Drexel Lodge.
Right. Right.
And if it were involving the band at the school could advertise it to the kids. And if we use the DJ, that could be done during the summer. Wouldn't require the band director to assemble a band.
Right.
So it's something that, could be considered.
Right. I'm just, I'm so far removed from that generation that I'm struggling to understand what they might enjoy. And especially today, like you pointed out with, with everything they've gone through over the past 2 years, what are they doing?
So when I had reached out, when I read the minutes, because I wasn't at the January meeting, but when I had read the minutes from the meeting and I saw what it was you were envisioning doing, something with teens out there, I reached out to Rich Enale at Marple Newtown Recreation, because I know he used to run dances for, I thought it was 7th and 8th grade. It turned out it was 5th and 6th graders over at the Gauntlet Center. But I said, is this the kind of thing that Marple Newtown Recreation might be able to help with, or might be able to partner with? He doesn't do teen dances. I mean, there's challenges, of course, with a teen event like that. But he would, one, be willing to help us with it, again, because they've got some experience with running those kind of events like that. But he also suggested, he said, even if you weren't thinking of a dance, he said, teenagers, I mean, they might like a wiffle ball. They might like, if you're actually setting up this disc golf, they might like something that would go along with that. He said, so there's actually lots of teen kind of events that you could think of, either as part of a dance or even separate from a dance. But so Marple Newtown Recreation would be willing to provide some assistance with it.
Huh. He's, he has a broad reach, and he has a heck of a lineup of activities for everyone in the community. It's amazing. So, that'd be a great resource if he can help us. Maybe we should reach out to him and see if we could have a discussion with him.
Yeah. Well, if we get music there, then people will move around a little bit. Maybe they'll dance to the music, even if we don't promote it as a dance.
Right, we
I
could have
wonder-
music playing and do some other. Go ahead, Caitlin. I'm sorry.
I wonder if there'd be any interest in, like, I was thinking Burlap and Bean, they used to do, I don't know if it was open mic nights, but they had, like, in their coffee shop, they had like someone playing the guitar or something. So I wonder if the high schoolers might have any interest in, like, signing up ahead, singing a song, something like low key or kind of like open mic night-ish, and maybe serve some like coffee or beverages or something like that.
Yeah, I've gone to the open mic night there at the Burlap and Bean. I don't know. That, I guess that would be Jake's call there, because he would have the resources we would need. I don't know where to get musicians that would come in and play a song,
Yeah, it would have to, if he thinks that the high schoolers would be into that, because that would, he would have to kind of step up to provide a list of high schoolers who might want to participate.
Not a bad idea. And then we could do a wiffle ball or a disc golf to coincide with it, just to attract as many of the kids as we could. Like Bill said,
I think key is it's a great idea, and I know we're ready to support. We're ready to support that for you. One of the things when I was talking to Rich, every year we block out, because of course Drexel Lodge is a popular place for the sports teams and for events and those kind of things. And every year I send Rich email because he assigns the field permits for the sports teams that utilize it, lacrosse, soccer, et cetera. And I always send him a list, usually in early March, of dates that we want to block out so that, these are going to be township events. We know there's going to be a concert. We know there's going to be this or that, or somebody is running the pavilion or whatever it winds up being. So because it sounds like the vision of Park and Rec is to have regular events out at Drexel Lodge, I would say if we could, by the March meeting, kind of have an idea, even if we don't know what the event is going to be, if we know what the date of the event is, that we could start holding Saturdays, Sundays, Wednesday nights, whatever it is that that you want to use for an event, we could hold them and make sure that the sports teams aren't expecting to be there. Unless you decide you want to hold an event that you want the kids there for the sports team and then go and attend it, which, sometimes can work as well. But just if maybe by the March meeting, we could come up with the dates that you might want and then make sure that we've got them available to us.
all right, so are you and I going to do that, Bill?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. So Bill and I will do the teen dance event.
Whatever. Yeah.
So you're going to need a date. You want a date by March. Richie now.
Would you clarify, someone clarify the time of year? These are summer things that we're going to do?
So this would most likely be late spring, early summer while school's still in session. That would be optimum.
May is Mental Health Awareness Month, so that might be a good time for it. I do know that we also have the park concert in the park in May, so I don't know if that would be too crowded or too many events, but just throwing it out there. May is Mental Health Awareness Month.
Thank you.
We pick a date in May.
That's what it sounds like.
Okay.
That'd be a good idea.
Yeah.
What is Rich's last name?
E now. I think it's EHNOW.
And he's with Marvel Newtown Recreation.
Correct. And next we'll have the discussion about the upcoming review at Drexel Lodge Park. Last year we had done a Brookside and reviewed it. It took us a while. It took us a lot longer than I ever thought it would, but I think we did a pretty good job. And so this year we had discussed Newbie and Drexel. And I think, we've kind of satisfied Newbie with the community event, which we'll discuss later. So I think a more comprehensive review of Drexel Lodge is a good thing for us to do over the year, and whatever we can fit in on Newbie as well. Drexel Lodge is, if you look at the master plan, it's considered the community park, and we should be putting resources into that park specifically. And so if everyone can look at I'll send a link or just take a snapshot of the master plan that cites Drexel Lodge and send it out to everyone to review. But if you can go over there in the next 6 months and just drive around, take a walk around, see what you think, and maybe vision in the future, or something needs to be corrected now. Then we can just discuss it as the year goes on, if that's okay with everyone.
Sounds
Sure.
good.
Is the painting of the restroom there, is that nearly done? Is that going to be finished in the spring? Is that how that's going to work?
Yeah, so the teachers are going to come back out in May, I believe it is. And they're going to bring the students out who've done their individual work to be applied to the walls by themselves. So there'll be different times that they'll all be there. But I think there's like 20 portraits or works of art that are going to be applied over top of that.
Okay.
Before that happens, there's a little more cleanup we need to do, tightening the lines and touch up. And so I'll be over there and asking for volunteers whenever it gets warm enough. And then whenever the teachers are ready, if anyone wants to attend and help, they're more than welcome. But right now, I don't know what those dates are.
You believe that would take place in May, though?
I think so, yeah, when it's warm enough.
Mhm.
And we might be able to do it in April. Is there an issue, or?
No, there's none at all. I just want to make sure, I mean, certainly the restrooms will be open again. And I want to make sure they're open for when they go in there. The first Saturday in June is Newtown Square Historic Day. And I know Drexel Lodge is going to be one of the sites for Historic Day. That's, I mean, if there's a community day, it's that day, for all the historic sites. And so the Railroad Museum winds up being open. So if it was done before that, it's kind of the big day in Newtown Square, I guess you'd call it. I don't know if they envisioned it being completed in May before the kids would be done in June, or if they needed a target to aim for.
I envision it being done by June 1st myself. That's, the last I
Yeah.
spoke with her, I believe it was going to be done in May.
Because if it was going to be done, I would let the Historic Society know, and maybe even in their program booklet, they can point to it and say, hey, when you're at Drexel Lodge, go look at this.
Great. We use all the publicity we can get.
You said that was June 1st,
Yes,
the date,
The first Saturday in June.
or first Saturday?
Yeah.
Okay.
and Drexel Lodge has that trail in the back, and there is a trails committee that's gonna, they have taken over the trails, but it isn't like we can't go back there and make recommendations as well while we're there, if anyone wants to walk it. It is a pretty cool trail.
Yes, it is.
And so discussion and possible approval regarding dogs. So I was down there and there was someone not happy about, they had been there the previous day and someone's dog was in there and they were trying to tell them, you can't have your dog in there. I bring my children in here, and there was some words went back and forth. So they weren't happy. And I've heard from other neighbors as well that it's still an ongoing
Well,
problem.
the
So
dog was off leash, probably.
Yes, in that, it corralled in there.
Inside the fence.
Yes,
Yeah.
doing
Not
his
supposed to do
business.
that.
Yeah, doing his business where our kids are playing. It's not
That isn't good.
proper, right? So I know it's come up before. I'm not sure what we can do about it.
So there's a sign right there that says dogs are not permitted in the enclosure. So folks are not, they're not honoring what is right there. Dogs become a police matter. The owners are responsible for them, but it is a police matter. So what should happen is that people, when they see a problem, should call the police. What I would suggest is that we've mentioned it to the police before that this is a problem down there. I don't know, because I saw you had, possible action or something. I didn't know if you had a recommendation of something to do about this problem. I would say that maybe Park and Rec wants to send a letter to the police department specifically saying this is a concern of ours. And the only other thing I could recommend would be maybe we need to install signage telling people, if you see this, to call the police. Because sometimes I think people don't want to call the police over
Right.
something like that. Maybe the message needs to be, this is what you do. And then if somebody sees that sign as they go in and let their dog loose, they know somebody's going to call the police. That's just from Public Works' experience. I'm not trying to tell the committee what to do, but I know we have put a sign up. We have notified the police about it. They just can't sit there 24/7 and wait to try to catch somebody.
Right.
Bigger concerns.
If I might
Mark, is
say,
Sorry.
I was over at Drexel Lodge Park probably last spring and saw a man let the dog off lead. I called the Newtown Square Police. Gary, the police officer, came over and waited for the gentleman to bring the dog out, who was leaded out at that, who was on lead at that point. But as he came up the hill, Gary, I spoke with Gary before he turned around to wait for the man to come back out. And he, I don't know what he said to the gentleman, but I think he said, you need to keep your dog on lead at all times. And because I left at that point, I was on my way out. It wasn't like ratting. It was just saying, hey, listen, we have an ordinance, 2 ordinances. Number 1, you have to contain your dog, control your dog, certainly on township property, but also you have to pick up after your dog wherever your dog happens to leave his daily deposit. And I think, so I just want to tell that to say we shouldn't, if we ever see that, we should be certainly ones. I remember, I think, George, you said, no, don't confront the person, just call the police. So it worked.
Correct.
So my thoughts would be to, a sign. I'm not sure if the positioning of the sign could be different, to notify someone.
George could figure that out. But the sign is the least we can do.
So I'll take
Do it.
Brookside as one example, because there's actually signs exactly like Peter explained. There's signs at every park that talks about dogs and making sure that you clean up after them and that they're on a leash at all times. That is required by township ordinance. There is a sign, literally, you cannot walk into the tot lot at Brookside without passing that sign. It is mounted right on the fence when you would go to walk in. So there is no ignorance of the requirement as you go into that. And it was placed there specifically because of the complaints in the past about it. So we can put more signs up. I think that the question would be, do you want the signs to say something specifically?
I think that, the fact that you can call the police, because I don't think most people want to call the police. I never want to call the police on anyone. I think most people don't. And, if you see the sign, you might go, you know what, maybe I should call the police instead of saying something, because today's environment, I don't think we want people saying things to one another
Could
right
it
now.
just, could a simple statement say by police order, just to call to the attention of the people that are looking at the sign that the police are monitoring that?
Maybe slate the ordinance number, yeah.
Could even put the phone number, if needed, call this number.
Yeah, that might be good, rather than, otherwise you call 911.
Well,
seems-
the police number is 911 because there's not a a local number to
They've got more
call.
serious things to deal with, don't
No,
they?
you call for anything now,
There-
yeah.
Yeah, they want you to do that because actually the police department, if you were to call, let's say you were to call, it was during hours when somebody's at the front desk and you call them, it doesn't record in their call log the same way as it would have through 911.
Okay.
I like
Nope.
the idea of a sign.
Get it. For violators, call 911.
What's that,
That
Caitlin?
would scare people. Yeah.
Maybe I can't picture the sign that's already up at Drexel, but maybe like George was saying, just to kind of copy what's at Brookside, as soon as it's the opening of the enclosure, there's a sign right there. And then I don't know if it's possible to add, a line at the bottom or add a second sign underneath that says, I don't know, something like,
For the good of the community, call the police.
Yeah, to call the police or, yeah.
I mean, because it's not you want to be mean. It's just that other people have their rights as well. I mean, there's
Yeah,
an
so
ordinance.
For the safety of all.
Yeah, exactly. Which park was it that somebody had a dog in the enclosure?
Brookside,
That was at Brookside.
around our
Yeah.
tree.
It happens more often than you would think. People are that ignorant that they would just take their dog there to run around.
Right, so if you want, I can bring it to the chief of police and say, this is what Parks and Rec is asking, and make sure he is comfortable with the wording of the sign so that he'll make sure the officers can enforce it based on that wording.
That
Yes.
would be good.
Okay.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Thanks, George.
So item 8.5 is consider recommending one of us to a new committee that's being formed for the rail trail feasibility committee. So this is the trail between Greer Park and Brookside Park. And this is just a feasibility study. It's not a plan to do anything. It's just to put feelers out and see what to gauge the community, to gauge kind of, the feel and just the environment that's out there right now. So.
Right. One of the things when the grant went in and was accepted, it looks fantastic on a map. It looks great on paper. There are ways, I mean, it makes sense to do it. It's something that has been talked about for years and years and years, but there's never been a true feasibility study done on it to take the time to really make sure it's the right trail. And one of the things that was key when the grant was put in and making sure that this is what the funds were going to be expended on. I mean, there's going to be some surveying work. There's going to be drafting and legal checking and that kind of stuff. The greatest expenditure and time allocated is meeting and discussing and listening to the folks who live along that route. I mean, because there's about 70 properties that are along that route. Again, when the railroad went in 1895, it was a farm. By the 1940s, the farm had been sold off and they started, having properties. So there were neighbors to the train. And then the train stopped in about the 60s. So, since that time, there's been no trains through there. There's about 70 properties through there. One of the keys to the feasibility study is engaging and listening to the folks who live along there and making sure that that is all part of what is studied and to see whether it's the right one and how to go about doing it if it were done. We actually were very careful when we put in for the grant. Delaware County had said, do you want to put in additional funds for like startup construction? And we said, no, we are genuinely just doing a feasibility study. We want to walk into this and look at the folks that live along there and say, we're studying this and we're listening and we're sharing information, and we're not walking into this with a predetermined outcome to it. We would like it. It would be good, but we want to make sure that this is done right. So this committee's purpose, which is it's going to report directly to the Board of Supervisors, is predominantly to select a consultant who would be doing this work, and then they would work hand in hand with the consultant when the feasibility study's done.
Okay.
Now, with Sheila living almost adjacent to the rail bed, could she be our representative for that?
She's not a formal member of Parks and Rec, so it has to be one of us 5 that has to do it.
Yeah, the board was very keen. The Board of Supervisors was very keen. They wanted one person from the Trails and Greenways Committee, and they wanted one person from the Parks and Recreation Committee. And then they specifically said they want 3 people on this selection committee who live along that path. They wanted to make sure that even at that level, that there was that kind of
So she
involvement.
could be one of those persons.
Yes. I assume.
When is this going to be happening?
So at this time, there is a post on the township website and Facebook soliciting invitations from residents to put in a letter asking to be considered to be on that committee. So that's ongoing right now. I think they're looking to get the committee meeting as soon as they can. As soon as they get a chance to start interviewing the folks who express an interest for it.
I'm going to be away for a couple months.
All right. And we got your dog down.
Jonathan is familiar with all those properties.
I think Jonathan, would if he were going to do it, he would come in as a resident whose property bounds it, and that would be his choice. But not, I don't think he would be good for Parks and Rec because he's going to.
But he is a member of the committee.
Yes, but he has two.
Maybe that's a good thing.
Yeah. Well,
We'll find out what he thinks about it first.
Yeah.
Is anyone interested?
I would be interested in doing that, but I live on Duty Drive. I don't live over there.
You would be representing Parks and Rec. You would be the Parks and Rec member. Not.
I understand.
Neighbor.
Now I understand. Just to let you know, Judith and I, before I had my hip replaced, I said to her, and when I could still walk, I said, let's go for a hike. And we had done Drexel Lodge Park trails with our little dog who was on a lead the whole time. And one day we decided to walk from Greer over to St. Albans Swim Club along the power lines. And somehow, miraculously, we didn't fall down. But I'm familiar. I would love to see a trail that would connect the two parks. That would be an exceptional thing for the township.
So, and again, this is to listen to the residents who live on the trail.
Right, and as we were walking, we wanted to respect them. So we kept, I think I even asked somebody in the township if I could do this, and they walked the Pico line. We just walked along the power lines. And he said, technically, Pico might have a problem with it, but I don't think they're going to be out looking for you. And we didn't see any residents. We didn't see any dogs barking at us. It was just a beautiful, difficult walk because the terrain is, at some point,
That's
lost.
the issue, I think, is that, what you see there is what people are looking at from their back windows, and they want to protect it. And, I think we can all understand that.
Sure. And do you want neighbors, or do you want the public walking, 10 feet from your property line?
Right. So,
but I'd be happy to serve in that capacity, Wade, to be on that committee.
There are also the issues that some residents have about having strangers in their backyard, so to speak.
Right.
Unregulated access to anybody who wants to get on the trail. And for some women, obviously, there are concerns about safety, trails like that. So
Also safety for children playing out in the backyard.
likely to come up. Probably, there's some documentation of some of the concerns that have already been expressed somewhere.
Well, and I think that two things. One, the consultant who's selected is going to be somebody who would have experience in navigating this kind of a question and would have walked this walk before. And I think of the Radnor Trail as a perfect example. I mean, that was an old trolley line that was abandoned and was turned into a trail. That goes through, that abuts people's properties there. It was not well received when the concept came up. It is a very popular trail now.
Yes.
And again, that's not saying one thing or another about this one. I mean, I'm hoping the residents who come in, who would want to be part of the committee and engage during the process. I hope we would have folks who, one, if they are for the trail, that they would be open to the possibility that the feasibility study may come back that it wasn't feasible. And the reverse possible, I would hope people who would be dead set against it would be open to listening and seeing if the trail was feasible. Again, that they would be willing to really see where the experiment leads.
Yeah.
Sure.
So,
And again, this is the study at this point.
Right.
This is the time to really talk and get the data and get the information. And like I've said over and over and over again, earnestly listen to folks and analyze what they say.
right. Thank you, Peter.
Sure, man.
And so
I'm all for hiking. I'm all for hiking and being outside. It's way safer than being inside.
We'll go to old business now. 9.1 is the discussion of the chalk art community event at Newby Park. Caitlin has been doing a lot of that work, so I'll let her give us an update on what she's done.
Thanks, Wade. I reached out to Sugaree. We had talked about at the last meeting, maybe seeing if they might be able to offer services. They are, eager to work with us within our budget. I think we threw out maybe $100, $150 for like ice cream and pretzels. I just wanted to confirm, is that the number or,
So can the township pay for this event, or do you want us to try and reach out to a business and see if?
So I'm going to say two things. One, the township would be able to cover this kind of event as long as it didn't mushroom into a massive, massive event. I wouldn't want to limit ourselves to $100 if for $200 or $250 you could really get the event you want at Newby Park. So yeah, we've got some money in the park's budget that we could allocate to an event like this. We have some community event money, and I think this would be a very appropriate use for it.
Okay.
And who would orchestrate it? Would it be orchestrated by the art teachers?
No, this is a chalk artist.
Well, I
who is
understand
just
what it
local.
is, but an artist to do art, or will the community be participating in doing the art?
So when we discussed it, it was kids coming in. So the artist was going to either go in the day before and do a bigger mural in chalk, and then have kids
Outline
either outline it, yes, and then have kids fill it in,
Uh-huh.
or do something and then have that, or examples, and then have
Okay.
kids. So that still has to be worked out.
And
but
you can get a chalk artist for $100?
I don't know what she'll charge. I don't think that it's much. I mean, it's.
Oh, okay.
So I'm going to send Caitlin her information as well, so she can contact her. I did talk with her briefly just to let her know that we might be
I like the
interested
idea.
in her
Did
service.
she like the idea?
Yes, yes. And Caitlin came up with the idea of doing it newbie because we were trying to do a community event.
Sure.
And we will get kids, to do that.
Would the,
And families.
and again, I apologize since I wasn't at the last meeting. Was the chalk art going to take place up on the basketball court?
That's what we were
Yeah. Okay.
talking about. Is that okay?
Oh, absolutely.
All right.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's perfect for that.
I'll just make sure that it's, well cleaned off before, before the event.
So when is
Maybe we should throw around some possible dates. I think we were saying April would be good, but I think it might just help for confirming with the chalk artist and did we want to avoid Easter weekend? Maybe the April 2nd or April 30th. Does it need to be a Saturday? I was thinking, I don't know, there's a lot of Saturday events in Newtown Township with kids softball and basketball clinic, and Saturdays I know firsthand are pretty hectic with children's events. So I didn't know if a Sunday might be okay to throw out for. It might be a day that's maybe a little bit less chaotic for parents.
And that's who we're targeting, right? For the most part here. So yeah, you talked me into a Sunday, I guess.
I think Sunday is fine day.
Yeah, Sunday afternoon, probably later in April, because I know early April can still be pretty cold.
Maybe April 24th. It's a Sunday. It is not Easter weekend.
April 24th.
Yeah, that sounds good.
The other Sunday, I mean, or we could do April 10th, which is it's not Easter weekend, but it is the weekend before Newtown school district spring break. So I don't know if people would be around for that.
Right. It sounds like the 24th would be optimum.
I think it will be.
We want to vote on that tonight, or we can vote on it next month, right? Keep this on the agenda and vote next month, because
I think
we
we
want
have to
to.
vote on it next month because
You could check with the chalk artist. perhaps.
people know if they want to comment or whatever.
Oh,
We
right.
have to have sufficient time.
So next month is good, right? For March, April. Oh, so you're saying we have to vote on it tonight?
No.
Well, I could get the information and say this is the potential date, just in case they're not available, or I know you have a contact with the police department and they were going to come, and so I can kind of put feelers out first for the date before we could vote on it next month.
Okay. And I did reach out to the police, like Caitlin said, our point of contact, and they are willing to support with a K-9.
Okay, good.
And the discussion and possible approval of action regarding the goose problem. So this is in addition to whatever you and Steve have in mind. That this came up last month, was the fact that there's foxes in the park I guess they're probably at both parks, but some of those foxes end up getting mange. And is it in the township's best interest to capture those foxes, take them to the vet and have them treated for mange? Because that's the only way. Peter contacted the vet and she said that she would do it, but you need to capture the animal, bring it to her, and then she'll treat it.
Do we know
then-
that there's foxes with mange at Drexel Lodge?
Yes,
We do. Okay.
yeah, I offered to, if you have, I read from other things that you could actually have the meat at the back area where the foxes would usually come to, and you just inject the meat with the antibiotics that they use, and you keep it there on a residual, for a couple of days, and the foxes come back and return it. And they suggest that you don't touch the animals. You just leave the antibiotics in the meat, and the foxes will come and collect it.
That's Sheila.
Yes.
So Peter talked to the vet. What did the vet say? I'm sorry, Peter, I shouldn't have spoke for you. What did the vet say?
No, that's fine. Her name, she's up on the St. Albans Circle, Heather D. It's hard to say, DiGiacomo. And Judith says that much better than I do, but I got it out, DiGiacomo. And she, I didn't speak with her directly. She takes care of our dog, but her receptionist technician got back to me and said the way it's they would have to dose each fox individually to make sure that to kill the mange and then re-release them, but that's the only way she would do it. There might be other vets who think differently. She said it's basically just one dose, but you have to give each fox one dose. You can't just hope, all the foxes are going to eat a dose when one might, it seemed like it needed to be a very controlled sort of process. So that would require, I've captured squirrels when I worked at the school to move them to another area farther away from the school because they were biting our students. So I had to use those have-a-heart traps and put them in the back of the truck and drive them over to your house, Sheila, and drop them off.
Yeah.
I
understand that you can put ivermectin, I believe, is the chemical that they suggest, and they sell them actually up in Lancaster even in some of the shops there, and it doesn't need a prescription, but apparently if you leave it there, the foxes will eat it. It's an antibiotic thing, and they suggest that we don't touch the foxes because we could disturb, put our scent on them, disturb them. And it's kind of recommended from everything from the wildlife that I've seen. That's kind of a helpful way to do it and let nature take its course of letting the foxes attack the geese, especially coming in April when they'll be having their new babies.
So
I
think-
like that plan.
What's that, Peter? I'm sorry.
No, I just said, Sheila, I like that plan because it would be very costly to trap all the foxes. You'd almost have to tag them to make sure you got all the foxes. But if you know, Sheila, if you know of a much easier, quicker, less costly way of doing it, I hand this over I hand this to you, Sheila.
Well, I will go up to Lancaster and meet with, I understand that they sell ivermectin over the counter for cattle up there. And so I don't need a prescription for it. And it says that you just put it inside meat, you leave it. And we have foxes that are on our property all the time. And I've seen the mange, so I know that they are really, and if we don't treat them, they will die. But when they go back to their den, they infect the other foxes, which is sad. So I'll go up to Lancaster in the next 10 days and see if I can get it from them. And if I'm allowed to do that, and I would just leave it on my property and see if they eat it. And hopefully we can try to save it. But I don't know if the township really wants to get involved in catching the foxes and treating them. I mean, there's a lot of liability to that. And then you have to get permission from wildlife to be touching animals. And I don't think the township wants to get in all that.
Yeah, that sounds like a liability nightmare.
Yep. And especially because you have to get a permit to do any of those things.
Right. Thank you, Sheila.
There was like a lot
I
of
think
issues that we were on, and we considered it, so it doesn't sound like it's something that.
So let me just ask, because I think I'm confused. Who witnessed foxes at Drexel Lodge with mange?
It was at Greer Park, and I saw foxes at Greer. At Greer Park, and I've seen them. And I don't know who's saying Drexel Lodge.
I I know that there's foxes there, so I assume there was probably foxes with mange there, if not
Okay.
now, at some point. There
Because
was.
we have some very healthy foxes I see in my backyard, backing up to the woods there near St. Albans swim club. There are some very healthy, red, big bushy tail foxes that they don't look sick at all.
I
Yeah,
have
I
seen
have-
one that has 12 open wounds.
Mm.
Oh. Yeah, the ones that over by us, by Tekka restaurant, they come through all the time, and they like to sniff my dog, and he likes to sniff them, but they have they're very healthy over here. They almost look like coyotes.
So the
Maybe
reason
they
this
are.
came up was because we were discussing the goose problem at the park, and, the fox is a natural predator, so that's why we were thinking if we took care of them, they might help.
So I talked to the animal warden for the township, and he was going to give me a proposal for addressing the geese out at Drexel Lodge. Again, my concern with the geese at Drexel Lodge, the last time I went out and counted them, there were 90 of them. And
Oh.
I mean, there were 90. Actually, I stopped counting at 90. There might have been 92, 93. There were 90. Now would be the time if we wanted to have a program where we would scare them and try to make sure that they didn't set up shop and nest there, versus dealing with what happens if they do nest, and you have to look at the options, which you have to go through the state anyway and get permits for, whether you oil them or whether the warden collects the eggs or whatever that option would be. Scaring them at this point would be his recommendation for trying to prevent them from setting up shop and nesting and getting them to keep moving from there. I mean, several generations are going to keep coming back because that's where they were born. But if you discourage them from nesting there, then you could try to break the cycle and get a handle on it. The challenge is, I mean, with that many geese there, even with half of that number of geese, the events you're looking to have there are going to be very difficult to have because it's going to be a mess. So I was hoping that I would have had the proposal back before then. I know he was going there. I didn't hear back from him yet. We've got some funds, in the park budget dedicated to maintenance work and money to each of the parks. So we'd be able to do something. But I would probably want this committee to say, yes, this is the proposal. We would accept it.
Okay.
I guess what you could tell me is that concept acceptable? And when we get the proposal in, we'll see what the timing looks like and try to address it from there.
Who was it that you were getting a proposal from?
The animal warden from the township, Ellen Strickler. The animal warden is appointed each year. Predominantly, that individual works through the police department dealing with stray dogs and et cetera. But we can make use of them as well when there's other animal concerns.
Nice.
We have to pay for them. It's not something that they're free. We have to pay for them. And sometimes scaring the geese can become an expensive proposition. But again, if we're looking to have a lot of events at the park, there's a lot of geese that are setting up shop there.
And there's a lot of other people that use the park besides our events. I think it's important that we keep it clean. I don't know what anyone else thinks.
Yeah, we're not recommending at this point to go in and do anything lethal with them. We're recommending trying to discourage them from being there, especially when they would be looking to set up shop.
Right.
We should go ahead with that, otherwise the parks won't get used.
Right. They're going to diminish. Yeah.
I don't want to walk in that stuff.
No.
I think that sounds like the most conservative approach. I support that, just to kind of scare them and, before any maybe further action is taken.
This would be hiring someone with a dog.
Yes, Jonathan, that's one of the things he does is bring a dog. He also uses strobe lights and things like that,
Okay.
noisemakers, things like that. Again, he doesn't do it while there's, something happening at the park, but he does it, basically, he keeps doing it at different times so that they're constantly unsettled and realizing it's not a good place to stay.
Right.
I'm in favor of it.
So how about when we do have our events, is there a temporary solution that works? Is there?
So I would say that when there is an event, I mean, if they nest, they're not going anywhere. You could scare them, they're not going to leave the nest. If we scare them now, then hopefully by the time March comes around, they may not be, they're going to be looking for somewhere to nest and it's not going to be there. I think that's what we want to try to do before you would have events. The challenge is if they do not leave there, then by the time you start having your events, even if we do something to scare them away before the event, the mess they leave is going to be all over the place. And there's just no way to clean that up.
All right.
Well, then if this committee is recommending that I continue to look at something that would scare them away and deter them, again, not doing anything with eggs at this point, not doing anything that would be considered lethal, just discouraging them from setting up shop there, I'll go down that path.
Yes,
That sounds good.
Yes.
Yes, agreed.
Okay.
I mean, the Fox are going to be there with or without our help. But yeah, it's right now it appears they're not doing anything.
Not enough. No, they don't make enough of a dent, the Foxes alone, Sure. We just thought as a side note, might as well discuss it. It can't hurt.
Okay, thank you.
And so the concert in the park series. So we decided on May 14th. I did reach out to a band that started out like bluegrass. They were in New York. They moved to North Carolina. They're a nationally known band, a bigger name band. And they're along the lines of what we've had before, because if we look at the following that we've developed over the past 5 years, we've attracted a certain age group that they're always there. And if we end up having a rap artist or some other kind of artist that is out of that range, then they might not come back. They're going to be confused. And so my preference is that we keep the same style, the same age group target for the concert in the park series, so that we can maintain that and build on that crowd that keeps coming. There are younger people that do come. There are families that do come. So
sure,
we're just not targeting the teens and children that come individually. So that, I think the teen option that we have now will satisfy that. So this band kind of fits in that niche. They haven't gotten back to me yet. Caitlin's band kind of fell through for us. So we're just looking for other options. As soon as I hear back, I'll get it on the agenda.
What was the name of that band that you were?
Yarn. It's
Yarn.
just like the string yarn.
And what was the date again, Wade?
May 14th.
Okay, thanks.
We'll need the volunteers. I think we might have to ask the township to pay for the sound man if that's okay. I think we'll be able to fund the concert itself with.
And do we know how much the sound man is?
I would think maximum 250.
Okay, we should be able to cover that.
Right.
Yeah. Again, we've got some community event money, and I want it to go toward community events and things like that. We'll just always watch so that we're wise with it, because 250s will add up quickly.
Yes.
But I never, like for example, the Newbie Park one, I think that is a great use of that couple $1,000s I've got there. I think the sound man, that's a perfect use of it. And so we want to keep doing that.
And we'll try and minimize the cost to the township for sure.
Yeah. The key is we've always put that in to try to be a safety net, so that, say, for example, sponsors to the concert may have fallen through, we would be able to cover it. it's ideal when it can pay for itself, or when sponsors come in and and participate in it and they own it, then that's fantastic. But I always wanted to make sure we had enough funds there that we could cover it in case we didn't get that, we could still have the event.
Thank
Good
you.
idea.
So I'll wait to hear back from the band. I guess we can vote on it next month. We still have time on that one as well.
Thanks for reaching out to them, Wade. I think they're going to be a very family friendly band, so hopefully they'll come through.
So I guess we open up for public comment here.
There was none.
There was none. And does anyone have anything for items for next month's agenda?
Well, we can vote on the exact date and time for the newbie event for the next meeting.
I want an update on the shade consultant.
Yeah, Wade, I just thought maybe if you guys could make everyone aware of the deadline for the magazines, so that way you can get all this information into the community magazines. So George, do you know what those deadlines are?
No, I'm not in charge of those publications. Suzanne knows what they are, though.
Okay, but usually we're talking by the end of February, aren't we?
Yeah.
Seems a little soft.
I do not know the answer to that. Sorry.
Okay.
Yes, next time. We're fine.
So the vote on the newbie event, what specifically were we voting on for that? The date?
Yeah. Yeah. the
Yeah,
date and-
I was imagining it might be like a noon to 2 or like noon to 3 event. And then have like water ice and pretzels, and then have a police officer or 2 come with canines, and and then have the artist who does the chalk artist to do the basketball courts. So that's kind of what I was thinking. And we had said, tentatively it would be great, nothing official, but it would be great if we could do April, what was that?
2020.
24th, April, which is a Sunday,
Right.
April 24th.
Okay.
Oh, this is February. We'll vote on it in March for an April event, so we should be fine, like Bill said.
Now for the shade for Brookside, do we vote on that at all, or is it just a report on what the decision was about placement?
Yeah, we might be ready to do a vote. If George is reaching out to Bill and I, and we're going to go take a look, we might have maybe some proposals.
Yes, my plan would be to have a proposal for this committee for the March meeting that you could vote on.
Okay.
Anything else you need for the minutes, Jonathan?
I think that's it.
Being no further business, I move to adjourn.
So adjourned. I second it. We're adjourned.
Night, everyone.
Night.
Good night.
Thank you.
Thanks. Good night.
Thanks, Wade.